G'day, everybody. Today we're talking about New Zealand SMEs in a global context, and specifically what the data is really telling us about productivity, pay, worker rights, job security, and training. Most importantly, we're talking about what we could do differently that would actually help small businesses, not just create another layer of noise. Let's start with something basic. New Zealand is not pretending to be a nation of small businesses. It is literally how the economy is built. Most firms are small and a very large share are micro businesses. That structure has genuine upsides. Small firms tend to be closer to customers, quicker to decide, and more anchored in their communities. Owners often have skin in the game in a way that corporate structures don't. So the goal is not to replace SME structure, the goal is to make it work better. When you compare New Zealand with high-performing small advanced economies like Denmark, Finland, the Netherlands, parts of Canada, and top-performing regions in Australia, a consistent pattern shows up. An SME-heavy economy does not automatically deliver high productivity or high wages. The countries that do well have built systems that help small firms invest, learn, train, and improve at scale. Now, we need to talk about productivity because everything else hangs off it. Productivity is output per hour worked. It's the engine room metric. It's what ultimately funds wages, training budgets, technology upgrades, and resilience. New Zealand's long-run issue is that productivity has lagged other advanced economies for decades. Growth has often come more from adding labour, more people, more hours, rather than lifting output per worker. For SMEs, that tends to feel like a permanent treadmill. You're busy, you're working hard, you're doing all the right things, but it's hard to get ahead. A key mechanical driver here is capital intensity. Capital intensity is capital stock per hour worked. What the hell does that mean? In plain English, it is the quality and quantity of the equipment, systems, tools, software, and process infrastructure that supports each hour of labour. If capital intensity is low, labour and skills can only produce so much. And that matters massively for SMEs because it's exactly where the diffusion problem shows up. High-performing economies don't just have a few superstar firms doing brilliant things. They also have systems that spread better practices, technology, and skills quickly through the long tail of smaller operators. In New Zealand, that diffusion is often slow. The owner is flat out, the team is stretched, margins are tight, and investing time and money in capability can feel like a luxury. Then there's pay. Wages track productivity over time. There are short-term distortions like inflation, migration, surges, commodity cycles, and exchange rates. But over the long run, output per hour is what sustains higher average pay. So if New Zealand sits below the leading small advanced economies on productivity, it's not surprising that we also struggle to consistently sit in the top tier on wages. For SMEs, this becomes a knife fight. You need to pay enough to attract capability and keep good people. But you also need margins and cash flow, and many SMEs are operating inside an economy where the system does not make high productivity easy. Now let's talk about worker rights and worker voice. On paper, New Zealand has a modern employment relations framework and baseline protections like minimum wage, holidays, sick leave, anti-discrimination obligations, and health and safety duties. But global comparisons of worker rights are also about practical enforceability, bargaining coverage, union access, and whether people can exercise voice without fear. Why should SME owners care about that? Because countries with strong worker voice will often also have stronger training systems, clearer credentialing pathways, and higher trust workplace norms. Strong labour institutions can be part of a productive equilibrium rather than just a compliance burden. Job security is another dimension where New Zealand's settings have a clear flavour. International comparisons show that legal protection against dismissal in New Zealand is highly flexible. That flexibility can support hiring and restructuring, but it also shifts a lot of risk onto workers and their families when the economy changes. This matters in a productivity conversation because disposable work is really a high investment environment. If people feel uncertain, they're more cautious, less loyal, and less willing to commit to deep specialist pathways. And when displacement happens, firms lose accumulated trust and firm-specific knowledge. Rebuilding that is very costly. Now, training and development. This is where New Zealand's SME structure bites hardest. Many small firms do train people. Often it's informal and often it's good. Buddying, learning by doing, quick vendor sessions, and short courses can build competence. But informal training can struggle to build deep capability at scale. Supervisory skill, lean process improvement, digital system mastery, advanced technical credentials, export readiness, and innovation routines usually require more deliberate investment. High-performing jurisdictions tend to do three things better. They share the cost of training so SMEs are not carrying it alone. They make credentials modular and stackable so learning can happen in small blocks without taking people off the tools for weeks. And they professionalize management because management quality is one of the strongest predictors of productivity. So how did New Zealand likely get here? It's not because Kiwi owners are lazy or backward, it's structural. We're a small market, geographically distant from major markets, and we have an economy dominated by many small firms operating in relatively insular markets. That limits scale, capital investment, and connection to global frontier firms. There's also There's also the long-run capital allocation issue. When a country's investment incentives and cultural habits steer capital towards housing and away from productive enterprise, capital intensity suffers. And if capital intensity suffers, productivity suffers. Now, the important bit. What innovations could lift New Zealand SMEs globally? Here are 6 systems innovations that are practical and aimed at what owners actually struggle with. First, sector training compacts SMEs can actually use. Industry-led training compacts for construction, trades, light manufacturing, food processing, logistics, aged care, hospitality, and agri-services. These would include co-funded training budgets per employee, micro-credentials designed for 2 to 4 hour blocks, mobile trainers who come on site, and simple skill ladders tied to wage progression. This tackles the biggest SME barrier to training, which is, I can't spare them. Second, management capability treated like infrastructure. In a small business, one good manager can lift the output and culture of 10 to 30 people quickly. We need short, practical supervision programs that cover performance conversations, rostering discipline, coaching basics, and conflict handling. We need process improvement skills like lean, quality, and maintenance routines. And we need digital operations basics like job costing discipline, scheduling systems, inventory accuracy, and quoting consistency. Third, diffusion engines, not innovation theatre. NZ does not need more hype, it needs diffusion. Regional productivity extension services that help SMEs implement improvements, not just hear about them. Shared benchmarks by subsector so owners can see what good looks like. Practical implementation support that builds habits, systems, and routines. Fourth, capital intensity fixes aimed at SMEs. If capital per hour worked is a drag, we need mechanisms that make productive investment easier. Faster depreciation for productivity-enhancing equipment and software, co-investment funds for automation where it genuinely fits, export readiness support because higher value markets justify higher capability and better capital investment. Fifth, a flexible but not disposable employment bargain. The goal is to preserve adaptability while reducing destructive side effects. Stronger transition support for people displaced, including rapid retraining access and career navigation. Clearer minimum norms around notice and redundancy, or portable schemes that reduce inequality created by bargaining power differences and incentives for retention and upskilling rather than churn. Sixth, make capability lift when momentum exists part of the national productivity story. The Māori economy has shown strong growth and long horizon ownership. Done well, targeted capability uplift is not special treatment. It's smart national productivity strategy because it backs momentum, networks, and long-term investment horizons. So what's the bottom line? New Zealand's global SME position is not hopeless, but it is structural. We have a huge long tail of small firms, relatively low capital intensity, persistent productivity gaps, and settings that are flexible but can push the risk down onto workers and families. The countries that outperform us are not magically better people. They build better systems. They co-invest in skills. They spread what works through the long tail. They professionalize management, and they create capital settings that reward productive investment over passive gain. If you want higher wages, better job quality, and stronger SME performance, the work is not just inside the firm. It's also in the system around the firm. And the good news is that many of the fixes are practical, scalable, and completely compatible with the key way of doing business, provided we design them around real constraints. So read the extended article if you'd like to see the detail on this. It's linked below. And if you want to talk through what this means for your business, reach out. I'm always up for a confidential, no obligation conversation. You'll find my contact details in the description also. So thanks for being here, and I hope to see you back soon and maybe even speak to you. Okay, see ya.